Hello, welcome to Jolly GM's Riffs adventure. I've decided to start recording my games again, and unfortunately I've already played one session of this adventure, so I figured before I actually broadcast the second part, I would give a brief synopsis of the adventure. It is called Riffs, the Plague. It's currently set in the year 111 PA, and I have two players who are playing a father and son combination. We have Alistair, who is a true Atlantean undead slayer, and we have Theron, a true Atlantean Psi Slayer. The story begins just after the father and son, become united after being separated for most of their lives. Theron, who was abducted at a young age, grew up in Psyscape and became known as a Psi Slayer. Alistair, an undead slayer from Atlantis, found him as Theron became a young man in his early 20s. The two, after just meeting, decided to do some adventuring together, to bond, to learn about each other, and to discover what each other is like. Just north of the Canadian border, on Lake Superior, the two were headed to what is called the New Hudson Trading Company, which is a mobily operated trading zone which travels on a route throughout the year around that particular region of southern Ontario and northern Michigan, I do believe. As the two were traveling, they came up and met four individuals late at night at a campfire. Alistair decided to approach, while Theron stayed back to keep an eye out. As Alistair approached the campfire and saw the four hooded figures sitting there, there was no movement, and he sensed no life from them at all. No aura, no nothing. When he reached to the fire pit and to the shrouded figures, he grabbed the nearest one, and it turned out to be nothing but several cloaks placed on sticks. It was at this point that the trap was sprung, and the two were assaulted by a group of four men. These four men were covered in boils and sores, covered in blood, and obviously driven mad with the sickness. The four quickly attacked the two. Within the matter of mere seconds, both Theron and Alistair had managed to slay three of the four, while the fourth one got away. Unfortunately, during the conflict and Theron's brutal attack, who cleaved one of the men in two, was covered in the sores and in the pus of one of his enemies. After realizing that these people were fully and totally infected with some sort of disease, the two decided to take the remaining bodies and burn them. The next morning, after the pyre was set, Theron wakes up noticing that he is extremely sore and extremely tired. They both decide to continue on with the rest of the journey to get to the Northwest Trading Company. The New Hudson Trading Company. As they both travel for several hours on foot, Theron increasingly gets uncomfortable, and when they reach the trading post, Theron discovers that his feet is covered in boils, very similar to what he saw on the previous people. Knowing full well that he was somehow infected with this disease, tries to heal himself using his cyber powers. Unfortunately, these powers did not help him. Alistair, the father of Theron, decided to go and talk to the ruler, or the person currently in charge of the trading company, who is a techno hunter or a techno hound headhunter known as Gears. Gears is an aging man who has a, safe to say, a morbid obsession with collecting technologies. It is his trading post that travels around collecting and digging for treasures in the old ruins, looking for old and ancient technologies. During this process, it has become known as a mobile trading company where people from local villages would set up around his outpost as they travel throughout the year to trade in other goods. Gears is a friendly man. He is an older man, but he is willing to help. After finding out the recent infliction on Theron, he discovers, or he realizes, that this disease is transferable. So he immediately removes the two from the outpost, but assisting and promising to help them find the cure. It is also during these discussions that Gears informs him that his daughter left earlier that day to look for some medications in a nearby ruin, as this is not the first time that they have heard of this disease. He instructs the two, Alistair and Theron, to stay outside the city for the night, or the trading post for the night, and wait for his daughter's return the next day, hopefully with some medications. And they do so. Again, Theron wakes up the next morning and finds the biles and the sores covering even more of his body, and now he starts to bleed through these areas, causing extreme discomfort. The both of them both know that Theron doesn't have much time left. So they go to talk to Gears again to see if his daughter has returned, only to discover that his daughter has not returned from the day's previous adventure. The two immediately set out to look and see if they can find his daughter and hopefully find the medication that she is holding. Alistair and Theron decide to travel, and they travel north to the old city ruins, which have been known to be up here, covered under hundreds of years of debris and growth vegetation. As they are walking and get closer to the ruins, they can see down that a truck on a trail, obviously one of the trucks that his daughter, Gears' daughter, and the rest of the members were traveling in, seems to be parked on the side of the road. So they decide to investigate. Again, Theron decides to stay back a bit, not feeling all that well, and the more movement he does, the more discomfort he feels. Alistair approaches the truck on his own. Upon reaching this truck, they notice that the truck has has damage on the sides of it, and also there's a small smoke or fumes coming out from underneath the hood. Alistair approaches the truck and sees that there's no one around that he can see, but again the damage is considerable as he gets closer. As he reaches the truck, he realizes that the door on the far side of the truck is open, so he goes to look and finds a person, obviously the driver of the truck, laying inside with a massive tear taken out of his body, killed and dead. It is at this point that he hears a noise from behind him, and when he turns, he sees about 30 feet away from him a body of another individual with another massive bite taken out of him, just laying slumped onto the ground. Body for a person that was not there just moments ago. Alistair has a quick look around and does not see anything. So he decides to use one of his abilities, which is to see the invisible, and to look in the general area. And it is at this time that Alistair sees this creature standing a mere 30 feet away from him, still covered in the blood of the body that was just dropped at his feet. This creature is over 12 feet tall and weighs well over 1,000 pounds. And this is where session 1 ended. So join us on our next episode of Rifts, the Plague, Part 2, to discover what happens to the father and son of Alistair and Theron as they search for your cure. I look forward to having you guys watch us. Feel free to like. Thanks a lot, guys.